Welcome to The Guide at Fish North Georgia. Brought to you by these fine sponsors. Spro, working with America's best anglers to design the world's finest fishing tackle. Nichols Lures, handcrafted to perfection. Georgia Blade, makers of premium fishing lures for over 3 decades and home to the Georgia Jig. Crypto Bass, tournament grade, Georgia made. And be sure to visit fishnorthgeorgia.com. Now here's Andy Middleton.
Hey y'all, this is Andy Middleton coming back with a fishing report for The Guide. First one in a while. This is from a while back. It's January 6th, 2021 right now. We're going to dial back the calendar a little bit for this one. This was the Bass Nation Kayak Series tournament on Lake Chickamauga, and it was on November 21st. I went up there the 19th to practice, so I'll go over that, and I will go over the tournament as well, how I did and how I found my fish. So without further ado, we'll start with the practice session on the 19th. Got up there super early that morning and it was cold. It was probably 28, 29 degrees. There was ice in my guides, and I launched in a slough mid-lake. Just a lot of grass in it. Real close to the main lake, just a probably 5-minute pedal out to the main lake from the ramp, maybe 10. Got out to the main lake and it was a south wind. So if you know anything about Chickamauga and the Tennessee River, at least that section of it, the flow is from north to south. So if you have a south wind, then you're going to get out in the main lake and find out that the wind is stacking up against the current and makes it a little bit rough out there, even with fairly light wind. But it was blowing pretty good that day, probably 12 to 15 miles an hour. Wasn't able to do much on the main lake, and I wanted to explore a few different areas out there, some points and some banks with some docks on it and stuff, but it didn't really work out for me. Ended up going back into that slough and getting a couple of fish on a jackhammer, just fishing it in grass, ticking it across the top of the grass. Fairly standard shad pattern, just imitating the bait fish like you normally would do in the fall. So just kind of put that in my back pocket. The water temperature was probably 52, 53 when I launched, and then 55 or 56 by the time I left midday. Went on up north to this little creek that I wanted to check out, way up lake. Pretty far back in the creek, and I got in the creek and I saw that the water temperature was 49 degrees in that creek. So water looked great. Water color looked amazing. There's a ton of rocks in there, a ton of brush, but no fish. Just couldn't get anything back in there. Went all the way out that creek to the mouth of it where it opens up into the lake. Eventually the water temperature crept up back to what it was at the other spot on the main lake, that 56, 57 degrees. Got out to the mouth of that creek, and there was another kayak angler out there practicing for the tournament, and I recognized the name. We chatted for a second, and he said he wasn't sure if he was going to fish there during the tournament, but he was fishing the downstream point, so I went on the upstream point and fished up the river a little bit. I had 4 bites and 5 casts on that point, but just with him having found it first and us chatting and me not being sure if he was going there that day, I just kind of ruled that spot out, because if it was a very specific spot, and if he got there first and started fishing there, he probably would have cleaned house there. So I just kind of ruled it out as somewhere I was going to go, but maybe might work out for me sometime in the future to go fish there. But anyway, I had another creek I wanted to check out. Made about a 45-minute to an hour drive to get to it, and same scenario. Launched in the kind of midway back in it, kind of where it narrows down, and it was 49 degrees in the back of that creek as well. Was able to get a couple of small fish in it. Got one on a shaky head with a trick worm, and one on the medium-sized, like the medium diver frit side by Berkeley. I don't remember the color, but it's kind of a transparent shad. Got one on that, but they're both small. One largemouth, one little spot, and just kind of figured with the water being that cold back in the backs of the creeks, they wouldn't have much reason to be back there when they have all that warmer water out on the main lake and in the bigger bays. So I ran out of practice time that day, so I went home and decided I was just going to fish mid-lake and one of the bigger bays, feeder creeks that had a bunch of diverse structure in it. It had a bunch of channel bends, it has riprap, it has docks, it has a little bit of grass. It's pretty quick kick out to the main lake if I wanted to fish it. So that's what I decided to do. I got there tournament morning, and it was kind of polar opposite of the way it was on the day I practiced. It was probably 15 degrees warmer with hardly any wind at all, just barely even a breeze all day. So bluebird skies, it was tough conditions. Went out first to the main lake, started throwing a crankbait. Got one small spotted bass for my first fish of the morning. It was on this rock crawler, Spro rock crawler 55. You can see bite marks all over that thing. I've used it quite a bit this fall. It's been a good bait for me. Got a little spot on it, and then didn't do much else out on the main lake, so I decided to go back in the creek and just cover water in there, and ended up focusing mostly on transition banks, channel bends and transition banks, where you would come out of a channel bend and it would kind of lead into a flat or back in a little cove or something. That seemed to be where the fish were, and it would, most of it was rock bank, but it would help if there was a dock or a piece of wood or something there to relate to. If it was just kind of a nothing bank, nothing but rock, without any wood or anything or docks on it, I just kept covering water with this crankbait, and had one nip at the back of it, just short strike it, couldn't get it, and then when I came up to a blowdown or a dock or a seawall or something like that, if the seawall had any water on it, most of them didn't. But if there was a particular piece of cover that I wanted to fish, I would slow down, and I had this jig head, rig weedless. It's a shaky head, and I put a 3.8 Kayak on it. I was using Tennessee shad that day. That's not what color this is. I think this is like green flash minnow or something. But I was using Tennessee shad that day, and was able to catch 2 fish, dragging that Kayak, and then it eventually caught another fish on some riprap on this crankbait. So I only caught 4 fish during the tournament, but I ended up finishing 20th out of 148 people in that tournament. That's how tough it was fishing that day, and cashed a good check in it. So all in all, it turned out to be a good day. I think there were 14 limits caught in the tournament. That was it. So Chickamauga had been fishing notoriously tough in the fall of 2020. The Elite Series had been there the month before, and guys were doing good with like 11, 12, 13 pound bags, when, normally you would go to Chick and expect to catch 20 pound bags, to get a check. But anyway, it's just fishing tough. It had been really, really pressured all year with the amount of anglers, the influx of anglers coming in, taking up fishing during the pandemic. So lots of pressure, lots of tournaments. It's fall on the Tennessee River. It's tough anyway. But I was able to figure out enough to at least get those 4 fish to the boat. I did have 6 bites that day. Was throwing a fluke at one point on a transition bank as well with some wood on it, and I had a fish boil on it like 3 or 4 times and never committed to it. So I was around fish that day. It was just tough to get them to bite. I mean, there's so much bait in that lake. They have a total smorgasbord of bait, real bait to eat. So can be kind of tough to coax them into eating your artificial lure, but got a few that day. So that's pretty much the report from the tournament. It ended up being good, and sorry I'm getting this uploaded so late. Happy New Year's to everybody, but I mean, this is going on YouTube, so you can always refer back to it if next year rolls around. It's mid-November and you're going up to the Chick. Check this video out, and hopefully it will help you. I want to thank Hobie Fishing, Dugout Bait and Tackle, Jasper Jeep, and St. Croix Rods. Just go ahead and show you the rod I was cranking with that day. This is the 610 medium moderate Mojo Bass glass rod from St. Croix. And the rod I was using for the shaky head is a 610 medium extra fast, but haven't got it here with me right now. It's got a couple of broken guides on it so that I got to get fixed. But anyway, guys, check out this video, check out all the other videos on the guide, and have a great day. I appreciate you watching.
Thanks for watching the guide here at Fish North Georgia. Our mission is to build a community of anglers to give you the best and latest information to make your day on the water more successful. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, click the bell so you'll be notified of any future content. Make sure you check us out at fishnorthgeorgia.com, where we carry a large variety of bait manufacturers from here in the North Georgia area. So we appreciate you being part of our community, and we'll see you soon.